And welcome to How She Does It, where we sit down with women who are making an impact and redefining how business is done. And we ask them how they do it. I'm Karen Feinerman. I'm a longtime Wall Street investor, a mom of four, and a panelist on CNBC's Fast Money. Have you ever taken on a home improvement project? If so, you know it's not for the faint of heart. Trust me, I know. My marriage barely survived the first one, but then we did a second and a third. And the first stop for many homeowners on the journey is Angi, formerly known as Angie's List. In 1995, 22-year-old Angie Hicks, along with her co-founder, started the company that would grow into a billion-dollar business. It was a simple but brilliant idea, a go-to directory connecting consumers with home renovation, repair, and cleaning services, along with customer reviews. Today, Angie is the Chief Customer Officer for her namesake company, which is celebrating its 30th anniversary. Angie joined me in the studio in New York City, and we talked about what made her take the leap and become a founder, how she and her husband made the decision that he would stay home with the kids, and why it may be worth hiring a contractor who has had a bad review. This was a really interesting conversation. Hope you enjoy. Angie Hicks, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for spending the time.
Thanks, Karen. It's great to be here.
I imagine that everyone wants to talk to you about home repairs, right? Do you feel like you're sort of a renovation therapist for people?
Sometimes, but it's amazing how much people just like to talk about the things that are happening around their homes. It's like common conversation. But yes, I do attract that from most. And I have to admit that I have an obsession with doing home improvement myself. So, maybe I have a few stories to tell too.
Yeah, I've heard you were a bit of a serial renovator.
I am. 2025 was supposed to be my year of let's just not do so many projects. We'd done a bunch the year before. I'm like, let's take a break. And, a new furnace, new flooring. I don't know. I've lost track of the projects now. It's like I just can't say no.
So what's an example of a project? It doesn't need to be yours, but a project that just went horribly wrong.
Oh, I mean, the ones that I hear and that I've heard over the years that go horribly wrong, it's usually some kind of remodel. It's some kind of kitchen remodel. And unfortunately, it is when they work with potentially a contractor that was no good and leaves the job, middle of the job, takes their money and runs. Those are the worst types of projects you hear. And unfortunately that gives a bad reputation for the industry, but that's more the exception than the norm for sure.
So what trends are you seeing now in the business? Home remodels, things change. The way people live changes. But what are you seeing?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things we're seeing is people aren't moving as much as they have historically. They're just they're not, they might feel a little stuck in the house they're in. I tell people now, it's you need to think about your today house as your potential forever house and how you make that work for you. And we're seeing people choosing to do projects to make that house fit their lifestyle better than they would have otherwise. So whether that's adding an office, redoing a kitchen, refinishing a basement, you name it, they're doing projects like that. And the baby boomers aren't giving up their ranches. They're staying in them and looking to stay. I mean, my parents are in their mid-80s. Last year, my dad came to me and said, Angie, we want to remodel. I was like, really? You want to remodel? Okay, let's remodel, Dad. That sounds like a great idea. So it was new countertops, new flooring, new paint. And I'm just like, guys, this is a huge project for someone your age. And then also now with the economy the way it is, a lot of people are actually just focused much more on the maintenance items. They don't want to be surprised. They don't want a budget surprise. They're going to make sure they get the furnace tuned up so the furnace doesn't fail come the middle of February when it's super cold. So really working to take care of that investment.
So let me get to sort of your story. So the idea of having a list of pros, right? Today that seems commonplace, but 30 years ago, can you believe it's 30 years? 30 years ago, you built this thing from scratch.
Yeah.
How did that get started?
Yeah. So it was actually, I did an internship when I was in college with the guy who became my co-founder. And when I was getting ready to graduate from college, I really thought I'd do well in a smaller business. I'm an introvert and pretty quiet. And I feel like that's a space that I would operate well in. It was the mid-90s. I would send cover letters and resumes to small businesses and hear absolutely nothing. I ended up with an offer to go be a business consultant, and then Bill called me up one day and was like, "Hey, why don't we start a business?" Your parents are going to hate the idea. I'll raise enough money to fund it for a year. And then, if it doesn't work out, you'll have a good resume for business school. Not that I had business school on my radar, but nonetheless, that was going to be his suggestion. And after a lot of him hawing around, I finally agreed to it, but reluctantly.
So when he said, let's start a business, did he have a business in mind?
Oh, no,
or what?
that was what was great about Bill. Bill's just like, we've got many ideas. And then as we were mulling over ideas, he moved to Ohio. And what he discovered was a little business that he had used in Indianapolis to renovate a house called Unified Neighbors that had been around since the 70s. Didn't exist anywhere else in the country. Mm-hmm. He got snookered by a HVAC company in Columbus and was like, there's no way to keep track of who are the good contractors in a town. We just need to start that business over here. So that's what we did.
Okay, so you were employee number one or two? I don't know.
Number one. Bill didn't work there.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was number one. I was 22, fresh out of college. Didn't know better.
Uh-huh. That's good, probably.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I say. Ignorance is bliss. It's like, you don't know what you're risking.
Okay, so it's interesting that you say you're an introvert, because to get this business started, you had to be an extrovert.
Exactly. It really didn't align with my
right, your
my
inner
personality. Yeah, exactly.
How'd you get over that?
It comes down to sometimes you have to eat your peas. You're like, you have to do the things you don't love to do. And in many ways that taught me, because no matter what you do in your career, there are things you don't love to do and you have to figure out how to do it. So I was very methodical. I would set an amount of time that I would do the things I didn't like to do, and I would set goals.
Did you do them first, the things you didn't like to do first?
That is my usual rule.
Okay.
Like today, that would be my usual rule. Get the stuff over in the morning that I don't like to do. When I was going door to door, I couldn't go in the morning. People weren't really receptive to door in general, let alone at 8 a.m. So that ended up being an afternoon thing, but I'd be like, hey, I need to spend 2 hours, I need to hit so many houses, and I need to sell at least one membership.
How were you received?
Not well. Not well at all. I mean, maybe it was fine. I mean, it wasn't scalable. Like,
right.
It was one of those where it's like door to door 2 hours a day. And like I would measure the sales in 1 or 2. I mean, 2 would be a banner day. Probably not a bad return for the effort, but we weren't going anywhere fast doing it that way.
Okay, so at that time, that was a subscription model. You were selling subscriptions.
Exactly. So we patterned it after a magazine. It was $19 a year to be a member. You got access to the list, and you got our newsletter that we published each month. Mm-hmm.
Did you go around to houses that looked like they were in need of renovation or even in renovation?
Karen, I love that question. I used to say, like, if only I was willing to go and break windows at night.
See, there's this
might
model.
I have sold more memberships, because what people really wanted to buy the membership was when they had a need.
Right.
Right? And so creating the need. But I was unwilling to do that. So lots of doors, lots of knocking.
Tell us about the other side of the business, which is creating the list.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was all done via, so I would ask you if you wanted to join, and you said yes. My next question would be, can I get the name of any contractors that you have used in the last few years, and let's get a list. And when I walk out with both a membership and a handful of contractors, I knew it was a good day. And if I didn't have what you were looking for the day you called, I would say, let me call you back. And I would call out to members that I knew that had lots of, contacts. And I'd be like, okay, I need an electrician. Give me an electrician. And then I would get the electrician, then I'd call the homeowner back. So it was, at the beginning, there was a lot of kind of give and take, a little bit of process to it. It wasn't instantaneous, but over time, worked out.
So you would sell them a subscription to something that they help provide.
Exactly.
Which is, it's like selling a magazine and saying, listen, can you
write
me an article? Right. Excellent
Yes,
work
yes,
by
yes,
you to get that model done.
User-generated content at its very finest, right at the beginning there.
So when did you have a sense of, okay, there's something here?
Yeah. Well, we realized that I was not door-to-door material. So it was probably like 6 months in, we decided to spend a little bit of money and ran an ad in the local weekly newspaper there in Columbus, a little 2x3 ad, which was clip art, that said, tired of lousy service. So was I. So I got together with my neighbors, blah, blah, blah. And the phone started to ring. And that turned everything. Once the calls were coming in versus me knocking on doors, I was like, wow, I could sell 3 or 4 members a day at that rate.
Well, you can double production. So, okay, when you say the phone started to ring, there was the phone only at the
It was
start.
one phone. It was literally the phone.
With one line.
Yeah, I mean, it was a landline. It was just like, it was maybe the phone I used as a kid. Like, it was, those blue Conair.
Okay, and you would just, how did you answer the phone? What did you say?
Yeah, so I mean, it was, hi, this is Angie's List. This is Angie. Yeah, exactly. And that was the selling point for naming the business after me, because it actually started as Columbus Neighbors. And about 9 months in, we changed it. And we were either going to go the List or Jackie's List. Jackie was one of our investors' moms who lived in Columbus, who actually did know everyone, who actually did represent us really well. But then Bill threw in the last minute, he's like, why don't we call it Angie's List? She does answer the phone.
Right.
So even if she leaves or, it leaves us, it's still the truth. It's still the story. Yes. And that's who people talk to. So
were you comfortable with that?
It was one of the many inconsequential decisions I made in my career. I was 23. We had no members. We didn't market. It didn't matter. So at that point, I was like, fine. All right, we'll do this. And it became what it became.
So tell me about your relationship with Bill.
Yeah. So Bill and I met, as I said, when I was doing an internship. He worked at a venture capital firm in Indianapolis, and I went into the interview knowing pretty much nothing about venture capital. And the first question he asked me was whether I was as smart at math as the guy he had just interviewed. And I was like, I went to a really small school. I knew who he interviewed, and I knew Murray was better at math than I was. And I was like, okay, where do I go with this? I was like, well, Murray, I guess, is your guy. No, I'm not as smart at math as Murray is. And then we went on. He asked me my dreaded question of what venture capital was. I had my profound answer, is that they invested in small businesses, which is technically correct, but not very knowledgeable. And at the end of the interview, he decided he was going to give me a chance. And later on, he said, I thought you could use a break. The highlight of your resume at that point was being Employee of the Month at Ryan's Steakhouse. I was like, all right, let's do it. Were you good at that job? I was good at that job, and I think
what made you good at that job? I believe you.
Yeah, I think it's it's a work ethic that I got from my parents. Quite honestly, my dad was a UPS driver for nearly 30 years. My mom was a bank teller. Went through more mergers than you can imagine, and when you sign up to do your job, you do your job the best you can, and you're committed to it. And I think that perseverance and character trait that I got from them is really what made me probably successful as an entrepreneur, because I didn't think I had any of the other character traits, but perseverance, I was unwilling to quit.
So perseverance trumps introversion.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. Well, you can find your space to be persistent and, persevere despite being introverted.
I'm interested also in the contractor side. Is there anything you do to vet your pros?
So the contractors, to be a part of the network, basically apply to be in the network, and then, we'll check credentials and things like that. And then they have to maintain their ratings from homeowners in order to stay eligible in the network. So lots of conversations with small businesses. Most contractors in America are, 4 to 10 person companies. These are truly kind of the backbone of our communities.
So what happens when you have a contractor who gets a bad review?
Yeah, it happens. It happens. When I was young, it was hard. It was really hard. It was probably the hardest thing I had to do, because they would call, and guess what they would do? They'd yell at me.
Yeah. Well, no one else was there to answer the phone, I guess. You've probably grown to a lot more by then. But
hang on, let me get Susie for you. But yeah, so people, people take their reputation seriously. We all do. No one likes negative feedback, and when I was first learning, I had a mentor who was actually the founder of that Indianapolis business that had originally started. His name was Bill as well. His name was Bill Corbin. And I went to him about this, and I was like, Bill, I don't know what to do. I'm so intimidated. These contractors sometimes call and yell at me because people give bad reviews, and what should I do? And his comment to me was like, you know what, Angie? If God were a roofer, he'd too get a negative review sometimes. So I was like, that does kind of make sense. No one's perfect. And so as I got through this process, I learned to end up coaching pros on this because I was like, you know what? It's okay. I would rather look at a record where a contractor has a solid rating, but has a complaint now and then. Because in that scenario, you get to see how things are handled when the chips are down.
Right.
Because there's no guarantee it's absolutely perfect. No one is. And so that gives more insight than just seeing all the great reviews. And so I encourage them to, before they even respond to a complaint, one, go have a cup of coffee because you need to walk away. Yep, exactly. And two, decide whether it's something they can do something about. If they can fix it. If they can't, apologize, move on. You just have to let it go. Do not argue and criticize with your customer in an online forum. It will not pay off.
Right. Okay, so the business evolves. You decide to have a different structure.
Yeah.
How did you come to that decision?
We were offline, then we had a website, and then, the world was coming to a point where content was becoming free. And so we had this consumer membership model primarily, but then chose to open up the content on the list at that point for free. We still had memberships that had additional benefits to them for consumers, but switched that model. Contractors who are eligible could pay to be highlighted on the list as well. That decision was the right decision. That one was probably one of the easier ones. We kind of grappled with that decision a lot earlier in the business. When companies were coming out competing with us that were free, but stuck to the paid quite a while. I think it was like until 2016, I think.
Really?
Yeah. So we had
you had a loyal customer base.
Exactly.
So if you're a homeowner and you're looking for someone, you could end up with a lot of options. What advice do you give them to help sort of pare that down to be able to make a choice?
Yeah. So, look at all you can online. So read the reviews, look for a negative here and there just to see how they behave. Make sure they've got, enough reviews. It's like when it comes to contractors, they don't need hundreds of reviews, but 10 to 20 kind of feels really good. Like you got a lot of content there to look for. And then talk to them. I mean, you're inviting someone into your home to do work for you. Talk to a couple of different contractors. Make sure you're getting things in writing and, make sure that you have a good fit, especially on a bigger project. If you're going to remodel your kitchen, you might be living with this contractor for a couple of months, quite honestly. And, how are you going to communicate? Because a lot of times when I see projects fall apart, it comes down to communication. They either, aren't communicating effectively, not communicating frequently enough that all of a sudden expectations get misaligned, maybe the budget gets misaligned, and then the project just kind of, the wheels fall off the bus.
You must have had an interesting experience, or the contractors must. They come to your house, they maybe don't know it's you.
Yeah.
You're a serial renovator.
Yeah.
And here she must have got me off of Angie's list.
Yep.
And then they realize it's you. How do they react to that?
Yeah. Sometimes varying uneasiness. I mean, early on in the business, my husband was the one typically at home. And so he would handle the things. So we kind of avoided that until sometimes they would notice a few too many pictures of me around the house and start to get uneasy. But today I'm like, I work from home most of the time, so I'm usually the one there. I'm usually the one answering the door. Sometimes they still get a little nervous, and I have to remind them, guys, my input is the same as everyone else's input. So just do your thing. I am not good at your trade, and I really, really need you to do this project for me.
All right. Well, you said something. Your husband was normally at home. Your business was growing. You were just working all the time.
Yeah.
And you found time to find the right guy, get married.
Yeah.
But tell us about the decision of how you decided who was going to run the house.
Yeah. It's one of those things where it's just kind of a challenge. So my husband was an attorney, and we were both, before we had kids, work. And then we had our first child, and it was hard. I was traveling a lot. It was who's doing pickup, who's doing drop off. And we came to the point, I was pregnant with our second, and my husband decided, he's just like, I'm going to stay at home. And which was total, I mean, this was, 20 some years ago. I mean, it's that was unheard of at that point, really. And it was one of those decisions where I was like, what are we doing? But the kids need to be a priority. We shouldn't be debating who's doing more important work at 5:15 as to who's going to actually go get the kids. That's not fair. So he decided to stay at home, and it's been fascinating.
Discussion, or that was a sort of, he comes in and says, I've solved it.
He solved it.
So,
he solved it.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. And it was, are we sure? What are we doing? Like, I'm not a spontaneous kind of person, but, I worried that, like, I'm like, but I'm the mom. Like, what does that mean? All that kind of mom emotion comes into it. And he was quick to remind me that it's just like, you're going to be the one they always call out first. But I also look at it, I've got 2 girls and a son. Our girls are just, I think, so much stronger because they spent so much time with him. Like, their confidence, they run circles around me in confidence.
That's great.
Yeah. And, it's like they have a relationship with their dad that a lot of kids don't have. And I really love seeing it.
So that was 20 plus years ago in a Midwestern sort of more traditional kind of.
Exactly. He was hanging out with the moms at the playground, right?
They must have loved him.
He's just like,
and then they must have gone home and said, honey, why can't you be more like him?
Yeah.
All right, so that worked.
It did work for us. It did. And I think that's one of the things is just like, I think what I learned through kind of raising a family and kind of figuring things out, there's no right path. You just kind of have to figure out what feels right to you.
Right.
My husband being at home also helped me create discipline for myself and my work schedule. And if I wasn't traveling, I was home by 6:00 for dinner every night. Dinner wasn't great. It was just, a lot of times it was a good crock pot meal, but, we had dinner together. And I think those types of things, which seemed sometimes at the time a bit of like an unnecessary kind of restraint and what are we doing, turned into things that were like, we still all sit down and eat dinner together. Whoever's home, we all eat together.
And do you still do that to this day?
Yeah. Like dinner's at 6. Yeah, dinner's at 6.
So what do your kids think of your career?
Oh, I don't know. I'm like, I intentionally, when they were young, because I was very much in the public eye, attempted to keep it a little bit segmented. I used to tell people, I was like, here's a little secret. Angie's List never advertised on the Disney Channel or Nickelodeon because I didn't want my kids seeing it.
Really? Oh, that's really interesting.
They love the business, but my kids are probably not going in the business world. I think my oldest are going to be teachers, and we'll see where my son ends up.
Nice. So, okay, your 2 oldest are 2 daughters.
Yep.
Okay, and they're college age?
Both in college.
And they both want to be teachers?
Yep.
That's
exactly.
Great.
Yeah.
And your son?
We'll see. He's in high school still. He's got time to decide.
So a few years in, you decide to go to business school.
Yeah.
To Harvard Business School.
Yeah.
What made you decide to do that?
Quite honestly, I was at a crossroads. I was pretty burnt out. I had experienced a ton in the business, but I was 22 when I started. I was in over my head more days than I wasn't. And I was probably at a point where I was going to leave. And so I decided to go to business school. At the same point, the board was thinking, hey, we've got 4 markets open. It seems like this business might be turning into something. Let's build out the leadership team. And in particular, let's bring in a CEO. They started a search. Went to Bill, who was not a part of the business at the time, and said, Bill, I think you should come in and run this company. And so he came in on board, and I left for business school. I didn't plan ahead. I was never, I wasn't one of those people that was like, I've got my 3-year plan. I'm going to go to business school. Business school wasn't on the radar for me. And so I was totally ill prepared. I hadn't taken the GMAT. So I scurried to kind of fill out applications. Bill had gone to Harvard, so I applied there, applied to Kellogg. I got halfway done with an application to Michigan before I ran out of time.
That doesn't sound like you.
Exactly. I was like, but I had the person that ran my Cleveland office quit in the middle of me trying to do this. So I was actually driving between Indianapolis and Cleveland every week. So I ended up getting into Harvard. I did not get into Kellogg. I tell people when they're applying, I think it's all too often young people have their kind of business school plan on their roadmap and they have it set for a certain year. And it's like, sometimes it's not your year. Doesn't mean it won't be next year. It's a lot of times the mix of the candidates they get. And what I've come to understand is I was probably unique to Harvard. And not so unique to Kellogg, being, from Indiana. I mean, they probably had more women from Indiana applying to Kellogg. And so I went, and it was a good time for me to kind of step back and reflect on kind of everything I'd learned, but also just not take, and this is going to sound crazy, not take things so seriously.
So you lightened it up by going to Harvard Business School. I just want to clarify.
I just want to clarify this one.
Yeah.
And so, and I kind of told myself, I was like, I think it's just an honor to get in.
Yes,
if I don't make it out, it's okay. I'll be really sad because I'll be in a lot of debt, and I'm too conservative for that, but because I financed the whole thing. But I was like, I'm going to see. I'm like, and I was the introvert. I didn't speak in class, as you might imagine, and that weighs heavily on your grade at Harvard. I had one professor. I went into his office one day, and he's like, Angie, I just don't think you get it. Like, business school's harder than the work world. And I was like, are you nuts? I don't think so. Because I hadn't really spoken in class. He didn't think I understood it. And then luckily our finals were graded blind because I actually knew in that case that Coors should not stop brewing their beer in the mountains, because that was the key to their business.
Okay. So now we know what they ask you on the finals of Harvard Business School. Okay. So you're there for 2 years, and then you say to Bill you want to come back.
Yeah. Well, I mean, at first he encouraged me to apply other places because I had never applied other places. So I did. And I was having an interview with a packaged goods company, consumer packaged goods company, and talking to the guy interviewing me, who I assumed was going to be my boss, right? Like, and so he would ask me a question, I would give him an answer, and he would say thank you. And then he would ask me another question, and I'd give him an answer, and he would say thank you. And I walked out of that interview, and I was like, I can't learn from him. And while I had a lot of anxiety about going back to Indianapolis, going back to, we were a whopping 10 people by the time I was on my way back. I was single. I didn't have a boyfriend. I was getting close to 30. I was like, what's going on? What I realized was I needed to be around people that I believed in and could learn from. And so I told Bill I was coming back. He later told me that we didn't have enough money because our guy that was running the finances, our chief operating officer, had convinced him that we were running the business out of money. And I was like, it'll be fine. I'll see you in June.
That was a sort of extroverted thing to do.
Exactly. I was like, I'll be back. And then within 2 weeks of me moving back to Indianapolis, my cousin introduced me to my husband.
Okay. So it's all coming together.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Growing the business, things are really starting to take off. Have you changed your mind about what the scale of this thing could be?
At that point, probably still not. I think we were in like 5 or 6 markets. I mean, we always thought that we could be in the top 50 markets because when we started in Columbus was the 50th largest city. So we were like, if it's hard to find a plumber here, it's harder to find a plumber in Cleveland and even harder in New York. So that was our roadmap. And at that point, we were opening markets like 1 a year. I mean,
so it would be a while.
It would be a while. I probably would never have seen us get to 50 markets on the path we were originally on.
So then how did you scale up so big so quickly?
We were in 18 markets, 20 markets, something like that. And our biggest expense every year in the business was marketing because we were a local marketer. And we knew that at some point we would flip to a national marketer because in many ways, this is really still pre-online marketing. So there was no leverage. It was like we were buying newspaper ads, radio ads, billboards in local cities. And I was getting ready to buy NPR one year, and Bill and I were talking about it. And I was like, it's going to be $1 million for these markets because we were big cities. And he was like, why don't you go and see what it'll be to buy that nationally? So I go, talk to them, come back. I was like, good news. $700,000. And that turned the business. As soon as we could cover the marketing expense on the existing markets and flip to national, we went from that, 20 markets to 100 markets in about 18 months.
All right. So one thing that I want to ask you about, you grow the business, eventually you take it public. What did that feel like?
I mean, we went public in 2011. You know, it was 16 years after we founded the business that we took the business public. For us, from a kind of business operations standpoint, you know, we'd had outside investors, we had venture money for so long that we had a discipline amongst us that caused us to not have to kind of rethink everything when we went public. It was just much more of an iterative step than a leap that it was for some.
So I work often at the NASDAQ.
Yep.
And we see people going public every day.
Yeah.
What did it literally feel like to ring the bell?
It was great. I mean, you're so exhausted. I mean, that was a time when IPO roadshows were still roadshows. We'd been on the road for 2.5 weeks leading up to it. It fell over my 10th wedding anniversary, which I missed. It fell over my daughter's birthday. I flew home for a Saturday and hosted a birthday party and then flew back out on Sunday, back on the road show. You know, so there was a bit of a like, we've made it. Like just sheer exhaustion and exhilaration all at the same time.
Okay, so you go public. What did you do with the first big amount of money that you made?
Yeah. So I bought a Steinway.
Oh, okay.
Not for me.
Do you play the piano?
No, I do not. I do not. My husband does.
Oh, all right.
My husband does. And so I was like, we're buying that. I'm like, because there's nothing more relaxing and enjoyable than to listen to someone who's good play. And he's good, and he only plays at home just for us. And he had gotten our kids to take piano too, so I would listen to them play as well. So it was quite enjoyable. I try to play one holiday song like someone who was in the first grade every year so they don't completely lose what little bit of skill I have.
Okay, so you co-founded the company 30 years ago. You've served as the chief marketing officer. Tell us about your role today.
So I'm the chief customer officer today, which is a job I really love because I get to spend my time talking actually to our customers. Like, we live in a very digital world, and I believe we need a little more human interaction in it. I'm open to talking to customers all the time. So in fact, I have office hours where any pro in the network can sign up to talk to me. We'll talk about whatever they want to talk about. And it's a great way for me to collect feedback and get that back in the organization. You know, kind of, if I'm hearing things 2 or 3 times, then it's probably a big issue and we need to go address it.
The company's changed a great deal, mergers, acquisitions, rebranding. You're now Angi and a spinoff. So has that impacted how you move forward?
Our goals are still the same. It's like, we want to make sure that you're getting your projects taken care of and your job's done well. Same thing we were worried about in 1995. I've seen lots of different business, you know, kind of stages and experiences, but kind of our goal for the homeowners and the pros remain the same.
When you look forward 5 or 10 years, where do you see yourself?
Yeah, it's a great question. I love what I'm doing. People will say, like, are you ready to retire? I'm not ready to retire yet. My husband jokes around. He's like, what will you do? You need to take up hobbies, Angie, because you can't just, you can't go from the speed you're going to not doing that speed. So I've got an apple orchard I'm trying to figure out. I've taken up cross stitch. We'll see.
So let's just go back to the apple orchard for a second.
Yeah.
So you bought a farm.
We did buy a farm. My husband wanted a couple of acres so he could have some horses because he grew up in the country. And, you know, he decided he needed, in the end, he got a whole farm.
Okay. That's just how it goes.
That's just how it goes. And I'm just like, you know, it is what it is.
Okay. We're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back with the lightning round. Okay, Angie, it's time for a lightning round. We have some fun questions for you, a few would you rather type questions, but all I ask is just first thing that pops into your head. Okay, here we go. Would you rather heels or flats?
Flats.
Okay. I've heard that you are
I am
a
a
shoe
both.
collector.
I am a both. I'll be honest. So when I wear the heels, I typically have a pair of flip-flops in my bag.
Excellent. Okay.
I'm practical.
Do you have a favorite pair of shoes?
Favorite pair of shoes? No. I just like, I do like shoes. You are right. I do have a shoe collection. That was actually one of the things I bought when I was coming out of business school, was a pair of shoes. My friend and I each went out and bought a new pair of shoes to celebrate.
Okay. What's tougher, knocking on doors or dealing with a business owner with a bad review?
Knocking on doors.
Open concept or walls?
Open concept.
Okay. Would you rather the Colts or the Fever?
I'm a diehard Colts fan, but it's a hard week to ask me that question, you know? Our quarterback just is out.
Would you rather Honeycrisp apples, Golden Delicious apples, or some other apple?
Honeycrisp.
What's something you must have on a flight?
I must have on a flight a Coke Zero.
A Coke Zero?
Yeah.
Okay. Last one, 2 parts. What is the best investment you ever made and the worst investment you ever made? And it's a broad definition of investment.
Yeah.
Could be anything.
Best investment, committing to dinner with the family. Worst investment. Currently, I'd say my worst investment is putting a pool in at my house.
Really?
My kids, they loved it, but now we're kind of at the stage where no one's using it, and it's just kind of an expense right now. But I'm hopeful someday, you know, maybe it'll make a renaissance,
right?
Right?
Yes,
maybe grandkids, exactly. So I just have to stay a believer and keep doing the work.
All right, Angie, thank you so much for spending time with us.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. I love
fun.
your story.
Thanks.
Angie Hicks will be pitching in this holiday season on the Angie Holiday Helpline. You can check that out at 877-ASK-ANGIE. Thank you so much for taking time to listen to our conversation on how she does it. Wishing you all a week filled with projects that run perfectly. We'll have another great conversation for you soon. Until then, onward.